It's a non-insurance question. I was watching one of your videos about dividend investing.
Yep.
You were talking about QDTE. I've been doing a lot of research into it. So when I found that video, I was really, really happy. Now, my question is, would you do that with a margin account? Like at a 5%?
Maybe it depends on what the rest of my portfolio looks like. So here's the deal. Um, the reason I got into it is because I wanted exposure to the Nasdaq, and I like the Nasdaq 100. It's a bunch of top companies. None of them, I mean, they're all not going to go bankrupt at the same time, right? That's
Yeah.
why I invest in S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100. This gives me a cheaper alternative because obviously the shares are way less expensive than actually being in the NASDAQ, and it outperformed the NASDAQ. So
Hmm.
the reason that was getting into it is because it outperformed that, and that it kicks off dividends is just kind of it doesn't really matter that it kicks off dividends, right? Because we're not drawing that money out for income necessarily. Now I am
Yeah.
in my scenario because I'm borrowing from my life insurance, putting it into that. I'm going to pull those dividends out and pay the loan back, and I'm
And
going
pay
to
it back. Yeah.
right. But the
Hmm.
reason that I'm doing that and being left with the shares is because I want that position in the Nasdaq.
Okay.
How does that me being in that position in the Nasdaq go with the rest of my finances? It's great. So when you say, would you do it in a margin account? How much are you talking about doing with it? And how does that affect the rest of your finances? Because it's all your overall portfolio that you're putting together. So
Okay.
the rest of your portfolio is risky, and you're talking about adding margin onto something like that's probably not a good idea in general. Do we think that it would easily pay for the margin? Yeah. Yeah, it probably would, but we don't know for sure. So it
Yeah,
adds
that's
a
true.
level of risk. So
Yeah.
you have to weigh that with the risk that the rest of your investments are taking. And so you got to decide how big is the position that is working for you. And does that position require you to use margin? If it does,
Mhm.
if you said, well, if I'm this big in that position, like let's say you already have your old portfolio and you're happy with it, and you see QDT and you're like, oh, I'd like to add that, but I don't want to get rid of anything else.
Mhm.
And to add it, you're going to use margin. That might make sense. But the question is how much? How much do you want to add of that to your overall portfolio? If you don't want to reduce the rest of it and you add 1% of your portfolio to that and it uses margin for that, that's like probably pretty safe.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So there's a big picture that you got to take into
Yeah.
account.
Yeah.
It's not so simple as just saying, would you use margin? Because the alternative to that, you could ask me that and you don't invest in anything else. And you're sitting on like 5 grand and you got this margin account that's giving you access to another 5 grand. And I say, oh yeah, I would use that in a margin account, but I don't give you any other details. And tomorrow you go buy $10,000 worth, 5,000 being on margin. And then the market crashes the next day and suddenly you get a margin call.
Yeah.
And you get
Yeah.
and they sell out your position and you owe all that margin, but they sold out your shares for half price. Suddenly you got nothing.
Yeah.
Had 5,000 and it seemed like a safe bet, but there was a black swan event and now you got nothing. You lost your 5,000 and that was all your savings and now you're mad at me because I said
Yeah.
I would use a margin account.
Yeah. So the margin that I have up to 93,000. So I was thinking of maybe putting like 20 grand into it. I mean, the rest of the portfolio is pretty risky. Like I'm
Yeah, that
involved in
doesn't tell
some
me how much is the rest of the portfolio.
um
What's the balance in the rest of the portfolio that's not margin?
about 120.
120. Okay. So you're talking about maybe using a little less than 20% of the
Yeah.
overall portfolio with margin, but the rest of the portfolio is risky.
Yeah.
Probably not use 20% in margin for adding something like that to a risky portfolio. Because just using margin in general is risky.
Yeah.
Like I expect that the market is probably going to crash at some point. Um, I mean, look what happened yesterday
Yeah.
or the day, but was the day before. AI suddenly, China's making all these claims, and
Mhm.
NASDAQ, the biggest company in the world, dropped 17%. And
Yeah.
that was a massive drop. That didn't affect the whole entire market. S&P 500 didn't drop a whole lot. NASDAQ dropped like 2%, 3%. It wasn't a huge effect on that. It didn't really affect too much. I mean, the QDTE went down by 3%. That's not enough for a margin call. Okay.
Yeah. No.
What else happened yesterday? You guys paying attention to the news?
Well, today was the Fed's. The market went down a little bit, but
The
it
thing that
did
happened
recover.
yesterday was not having to do with the Fed.
Um,
The thing that happened yesterday was the Office of Budget Management for Trump freezed all the Medicaid payments to all 50 states. Those things went down. Now, there was a massive uproar, and they restored that.
They rescinded it, right? They rescinded like
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. But if they keep doing stupid stuff like that causes major disruptions, we could see a crash happen.
yeah.
So there are
It's a risk.
things going on that could cause a crash that are not directly market related, but certainly stable country related. I mean, he's talking about instituting 25% tariff on Mexico in 2 days.
Yeah.
Mexico,
Yeah, the market not gonna like that. Yeah.
no, there's going to be retaliatory tariffs. None of those manufacturers are going to be able to put up a warehouse here a manufacturing plant here that will replace that stuff anytime soon if it ends up being a prolonged trade war. Do I expect that to actually happen? Probably not. But like they've shown that they're willing to push the envelope on this stuff, try and flex their muscle. I don't know how the markets are going to react to that. I don't know how the world's going to react to that. Like it's a pretty unstable time in my mind because of the things that they are trying to do that are outside the norm. Most of
Okay.
them not like we've never lived through a time that the US is going to experience the potential instability that's going to have right now because of all the things that they're throwing at our allies. There's massive, massive changes that they're looking to institute that could cause a lot of volatility at the least, instability, high potential.
Hey, on the I know it's crazy. I don't know what he's thinking. I applaud him for trying to, change a few things.
In general, that's what you get when you change administrations. Somebody that's going to try something different. And I know a lot of people want to try something different because they're not comfortable with how things have been and they want to see some things change. But the question is, how
This
much
is drastic.
He's
Yeah.
hit it with a sledgehammer.
it's okay to change things too, because like try new stuff. That's totally fine. But like if you want to do a complete 180 all at once, that's instability, right? We make small changes. Small changes is okay because like you find out you did something wrong, you change it back. And there's time to react that doesn't just ruin lives.
Well, thank you so much. I will definitely exercise caution with that. I was just thinking, looking at QDTE, I mean, the last 5 years, the prices have been relatively stable.
QDTE has only been around for less than a year. QDTE was not started until like March of last year. That was when that fund opened.
So was it like what if you go on Robinhood, it has like a 5 year history.
I don't know where it's getting that from.
Is it back tested?
I have no idea. The
Yeah.
underlying, the NASDAQ has been around that long, so maybe they're pulling it from that. I have no idea. I don't use Robinhood, but it definitely does not have a 5-year history. It's only been around for at this point, like 11, 10 months.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hope you found value in today's video. If you'd like to find out more about IUL and the whole life, check out these videos right over here, and we'll see you next time. Now go maximize your cash flow.